So today we're going to go over the brand new Humminbird Mega Live and how to install it on your boat. This is long awaited for a lot of people. I've been patiently waiting for this. They're finally starting to trickle out there. People are starting to get their hands on them. And so we're going to go ahead and install one right now so that when you do finally get yours, you'll know exactly how to install it and all the things that go along with it. And then part 2 video, we'll actually go out on the water and we'll start playing with some of the settings and kind of show you what to expect and what to look for on your units. So to get started, we'll jump right in and kind of show you what comes in the box. All right, so inside the box comes a bunch of stuff. So first thing right off the bat, we've got some hardware, nuts and bolts. They've got some Loctite on it. It does come with a bit so that you can tighten everything instead of using an Allen wrench. Got some zip ties. It does come with an Allen wrench in case you need it. Looks like some little foam pads along with some more instructions in here as well. All right, now down into the meat and potatoes here. Basically, first thing is a power wire. This does look pretty long, pretty good distance here. Anybody that is having some issues with it, it seems to be, from talking to some of the guys and reading some of the things on the forum, power seems to be the main issue. Not getting enough, not running good, clean power. The other thing it does come with, which really helps out, it's got this little choke. So I definitely recommend installing this. I'm gonna go ahead and install it. And the other thing I'm gonna do, I did pick up today some 10 gauge anchor wire. This is coated, sealed. This is the good stuff. So I went ahead and picked up 20 feet of this, and that way I can go all the way from the back of the boat all the way to the front. I have a wiring harness already in for the double graphs that I've got with a bus bar, but I'm gonna go ahead and run separate power just for the Mega Live, so there's no issues whatsoever. Hopefully I can cut back on some of the distortion, some of the interference that might be happening. Also, it comes with an Ethernet cable. This is a 20-footer. It will be hooked to my Ethernet box, my 5-port that I've got underneath the console. So I'm gonna run that all the way back there. That way I can see it on every single unit that is tied into that. And it will take up my 5th and final spot on that port box. So we'll get that wired and run along at the same time we run the power wire. After that, it is the actual transducer. So here it is out of the box. It doesn't have the bracket on it, but you can see it's a pretty good size. I'd say somewhere around 5 inches by 5 inches, relatively thin. It's got its activators on there, basically those 2 little guys right there. Once they're wet, it turns it on so it's not constantly running. This cable here, wire looks like it's roughly 8 to 10 feet, so that'll be good there. Everything looks nice and clean and in good shape. Also, to go with that, we have the clamps. So there's the backside clamp. That looks like the front side that'll attach there. And then the last piece that's in here, this is the part that actually allows it. You can push that button, you can see it opens up and closes. That'll allow it to go to perspective mode for you. This is actually pretty heavy duty. It feels good. It doesn't feel cheap, even though it is plastic, but it feels pretty solid. I mean, it locks up and it feels nice. On the side of it here, it does have all of the indicating markings, so you know where your angle is. What is nice, one of the things I noticed is that whenever you have it pointing down, you can actually change the angle, whether it's tighter at 20, 30, 40, 50 degrees, actually kind of seeing back below the trolling motor. So I'm sure these markings are going to kind of play into that and how you have it adjusted up and down. So that's basically everything that came in the box. We're going to go through and we're going to start running some wires and kind of mocking stuff up. Of course, the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and put the transducer on. Why not? That's the most fun, right? So we're going to jump straight to putting that on. One of the issues I do have that's going to be interesting is I have a 45-inch shaft on my trolling motor. It's the 80-pound thrust Ultrex, and I've got a 360 that I'm currently running, and I've got a hydro wave on there on top of that. So there's a lot going on that trolling motor. So we're gonna have to make sure we have enough real estate to kind of install all that stuff. I have already this afternoon relocated the hydro wave back a little bit, kind of giving me ample space so that this thing can point straight down, forward, and then of course flip up and hit that perspective mode. So we're gonna go ahead and get started and mock all this stuff up, lay some wires out, and then we're gonna go ahead and finish running those wires and hook everything up before we head to the water. All right, so the first thing we gotta do to be able to mount this on the actual trolling motor shaft is you need to mount this bracket. So this is the landscape bracket, is what they call it. It snaps in, and then you can push the 2 buttons and that allows it to snap out just like so. So you have to determine how your trolling motor is gonna lay. Mine lays down with the prop facing the starboard side. So it lays down on its starboard side, so like what the instructions say. So what that means is the transducer laying down flat with the wires pointing away from me. That means for my application, I'm gonna lay it down with the hinge on the right side, my right side. If you lay your trolling motor the other direction, you need to make sure that your hinge is on your left side. So that means that your prop is facing out or the port side of the boat. You're gonna be in this orientation on the left-hand side. My prop faces the starboard side or inward, so I'm gonna go ahead and mount it down like this. It does come with hardware. So it's gonna come with a little tiny screw that has Loctite on it already. And then of course it's got a compression lock washer as well. And then on top of all of that, somewhere on here, it does come with its own Allen wrench. And so I'm gonna go ahead, that Allen wrench doesn't fit. Also comes with a bit for a drill. That one does fit. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten that up. I am gonna throw it into a screwdriver so that I can make sure that that is tightened down and secure. So we're gonna do that real quick. All right, so now that we've got that tightened down, you can see in there, you can push your buttons and you can see where it'll close up, or you can push it again, it'll hop out. Now it is on there. Make sure, it's very important, in the instructions it tells you, make sure that is fully compressed. Otherwise they're giving you a warning that it might fall off. It does have Loctite, I doubt it, but hey, these boats vibrate like crazy, and if screws are gonna come loose, it's gonna happen on a boat. So that's now taken care of. So now we got to attach the next side that's gonna go on the shaft of the trolling motor. One of the very interesting things, it's hard to see, there's a good angle. There's a little notch. So on all of these pieces, there's a little notch which will allow you to align everything. Then of course on the transducer, see if I can catch a glare, there is lines and little indicators on the top and the bottom. That way you know how to align all this stuff. So it's pretty easy as far as setting it up and getting it basically aligned properly so that when you do try to align all of these, you don't have to worry about it, it's already done. Okay, so now we're gonna install this side right here, the one that's gonna actually go up against the trolling motor. If you are using a Ultrex, it does come with these little rubber pads. It's got 2 pre-sliced up here at the top. Those will go here and here, and then on the back side will be the longer piece that'll lay down. It is saying that if you have an Ultrex, you do not have to worry about installing those rubber pads. So we're gonna go ahead and mock everything up without the rubber pads, and then if I feel like it's got some play or it wants to slide, I'll go back and maybe install one side of it. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and install this. Remember, take that little pin that's in there and line that up, so whenever it drops straight on, just like so, and then you're gonna use the other little bolts that it comes with. It's got Loctite, and then of course make sure your compression washer is in there. Drop that guy down and tighten it up until that compression washer is completely tight. All right, so that's tightened up, but I can still turn it to rotate it however I need. God, it sounds awful, but that's the way it's supposed to be, I guess. So I'm gonna go ahead and just align everything for the downward orientation. So let's see if you can kind of make out that. It does have a D, and then those 2 lines line up perfectly. And so that's gonna be in the downward orientation right there. So let's go ahead and mock up the backside plate and the transducer to see how that's gonna fit. All right, guys. So basically, you can see I've moved my hydro wave to the back part. I have got the clamp on right now. I did the front 2 bolts. They're a pain to go. It's real fine thread. It's got Loctite on there as well. So I just did the top 2. You can see I still got a little bit of movement in it so I can adjust everything. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start adjusting both of these. And I can tell right off the bat that this 360 head is gonna have to come up some. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then you can see where The landscape mode is going to click out just like that. And then of course it'll click back. And then of course you have all your adjustments for basically your forward view. That's probably going to be the most popular for me. And then whenever I do attach everything, I'm going to want to make sure that I have plenty of slack in my wire to go ahead and attach that down. I use electrical tape. I don't use zip ties. I just think it's a little bit cleaner and it works a little bit better. Everything lays down nice and tight. So I'm going to continue to tighten these up. It does come with that little Allen wrench. That's what works on these longer bolts. And it's kind of a pain just because it's awkward. It's up underneath there. And I'm sure you don't want to watch me drop it another 20 times in the video. So I'm going to go ahead and finish tightening all these up and getting the orientation correct. And then we're going to get right back to you. All right, so we were able to raise up the 360. We have got everything taped down. We've got our giant loop wire running up. I like to put this extra coating on it just to protect it. And then of course we've got that all wrapped back up inside of the troll tamer, the troll jacket. And then we ran that all the way down. We have not buttoned up the front yet, just because I want to make sure I've got power to everything. We've run the wire down the side of the gunnel. So that's where that's going to come out right there. And then I've got my wiring harness running all the way from the back. I just crimped both. And so now we're going to go ahead and take a heat gun. I'm going to put the 2 crimps. Those are heat shrink. We're going to go ahead and heat those. Once those cool off, then I'm going to take another piece of heat shrink, slide it over the top of that, and then go ahead and heat that as well. And then as soon as I get that knocked out, we're going to go ahead and zip tie everything up out of the way so it doesn't get hung on anything. And then we're going to move to the back of the boat and show you where we have the Ethernet cables hooked up and where we have the power supply coming from. Got it tucked up underneath. So if you follow that wiring harness, you can kind of see that white wire right there. Got my Ethernet that is run back. Ethernet box is installed right here. So now you can see I've got all 5 ports being used. So we're gonna go ahead and go from there. We're gonna move to the back of the boat. The nitros, of course, as you know, you can pull these back tubs out. And I have a clean power bus bar right back here. I have got my wiring harness coming through here, the choke as well. I've already got the ends crimped on that. And so I'm gonna go ahead and hook those up and throw a couple labels on top of that. Okay, now we've got the power wires hooked up. I ran in the other room real quick, grab some labels. Mega Live for the positive side. Mega Live on the ground. Got my covers to go back over the top. Just like so. Those are protected and tucked away. And we're good to go with that. So now we can get power going to everything and see what happens. All right, so that's it. Mega Live. It is installed, wired up, powered up. We know it's working on a couple of the graphs as far as showing connectivity to it. So we're gonna go ahead and for part 2, run out to the water and take a look and see what happens with Mega Live. So when we do get part 2 up, we'll go ahead and tag that in the comments down below. And then of course in part 2, we'll do the install video link as well. So if you want to join us for that, stay tuned. We'll be out in the water this week. We're going to go ahead and fire that thing up so that you can see what it looks like. I know everybody's starting to get them. Going to have lots of questions as far as how to install them, what kind of settings. That's the most common thing I'm seeing so far. So we're going to run through some of the settings out on the water and give you all a chance to kind of look at it before y'all go ahead and purchase one. If y'all have any questions about this install video, it's super simple. You can't mess the wires up. You can only plug them in one way. It's really only 2 cables. So that's what makes it easy. You've got your Ethernet, which will probably go into a port. If not, you can plug it directly in the back of a Solix. You can get the dongle and go into the back of one of the Helix units, and then of course run some power. And I highly recommend running clean power all the way to the back. There's lots of harnesses out there. Use thick gauge wire because it is a long run depending on the length of your boat. But other than that, pretty straightforward stuff, guys. Just takes the time to go ahead and get it installed. And remember, leave yourself plenty of slack in that cord. Transducer needs to be able to rotate from down, forward, and then of course snap up in landscape. And then if it's on an Ultrex or anything with spot lock, you don't want to snap that off. So go ahead and leave yourself some wire up at the top. All right, stay tuned till next time. We'll see you on the water and take a look at the live.